Welcome back to Brighter Morning with Bo. My name is Bo Tiwari, and we're glad to have you on board and to have a discussion that we think that you are going to be interested in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we talk now to Mr. Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, and he just a couple of weeks ago did something that was very important. He filed a suit challenging the authority of the Public Service Commission to appoint on its own someone to act as Commissioner of Police, because that was done by the Public Service Commission on two occasions. They appointed, first of all, the former Commissioner, Gary Griffith, to act. And secondly, when Gary Griffith went on leave, they appointed Mr. McDonald Jacob to act. And in both cases, Justice Kangaloo found in favor of the plaintiff, that is to say Mr. Balgobin Maharaj, and declared the appointments of the Public Service Commission null and void. And that, in fact, started a whole trigger of events which we will explore now with Mr. Balgobin Maharaj. Good morning. You mind if I call you Ravi?
No, that's fine. That's great. Good morning to you. Good morning to all your viewers and listeners.
Okay, good morning, and thank you for appearing on the program. First of all, I want to get a handle on how you see yourself. I mean, would you describe yourself as a civil society activist, or would you call yourself something else? How would you describe yourself, and why did you bring this suit, for instance?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and as a responsible citizen, and as someone, I consider myself a political analyst, political activist, a social activist. Whenever I see these things, and this hasn't been the first time that I've done this, but whenever you see things being done in the government, in the public, where it infringes on the rights or it infringes on the constitution, then, I look at it, I examine it, and I determine whether or not there is action that could be taken either by myself or by someone else. And I go to my legal team, and they instruct me on whether or not there's a case, and then we move forward. So far, in all of the matters I've taken before the court, I don't believe I've lost any of them. And, it's just something that I feel really passionate about. And again, when you see the government or when you see government officials moving in a certain direction, normally the people of the country don't have the ability to do anything about it. So I try to act in those circumstances, and so far, as I said, I've been successful, and I thank both my legal team, Mr. Anand Ramlogan, and God for the ability to keep on doing so.
All right. I'm going to kind of probe some of these issues, okay? Because I think it's important for the public to know and understand, because we had this suit. It is a landmark suit in terms of decision and its consequential. What can I say?
Impact.
Impact. And I think that this thing is worth exploring a little bit.
Sure.
But you have brought other suits before the court before, right? What were those? What were some of those?
Well, the majority of those have been FYA requests, getting information from the government on certain matters. Probably the most prominent of those was the matter involving Malcolm Jones and Petrotrin, and the failed WGTL matter. That one went all the way up to the Privy Council because the government was very apprehensive, and they didn't want to reveal these documents. These were witness statements in a prior arbitration. And so, yeah, we took it all the way up to the Privy Council. The Privy Council ruled in our favor, and we were able to reveal some of the mismanagement and some of the improprieties that were taking place at Petrotrin in regards to the World GTL matter.
Okay, and any other thing that you raised?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's actually the first one I did, I think was consequential as well, which was following the 2015 general election. There were a series of court matters that you would remember. My own had to deal with the EBC and the hour that they extended the voting by on the polling day. I was actually successful in that, although it was kind of overshadowed by the larger matter of the petition. But we challenged the decision of the EBC to extend the polling hours, and we were successful, meaning that going forward, the EBC no longer has the ability to do that on their own.
Okay, so in a fundamental way, I mean, the issues you've brought before the court have been largely successful. Would you say so?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, again, I mean, it's not, whenever I take these matters to arbitration, it's not something I do lightly. I consult both with my attorneys and with persons actually at UWI, Political Sciences Department. And so, it's something that I look into. And that's why I said, I consider myself both a political analyst and activist because these are things that I'm constantly looking at. I not only looking at Trinidad and Tobago, but other Commonwealth countries as well, to see yeah, standards and practices and those sorts of things. So it's an ongoing process, like I said, and I think it's important for civil society and ordinary citizens to look at these things because sometimes politicians, they can't see everything and they can't understand the full grasp of some of the legislation that they're bringing, some of the decisions they're making as well. So, all of these things are part of the checks and balances process. And again, thanks to the judiciary, thanks to my attorneys, we have been successful and I hope that, I can continue to do so in the future.
But what prompts you to be an activist of this kind and to bring matters before the court? I mean, I know you said that you are a citizen. You
Right.
said that you are involved in civil issues and that you are a societal civil activist. You said that you are also a political activist, and I gain by what you are saying, you are probably aligned to the opposition. That is neither here nor there in terms of the issues that you raise that are public issues and that are national issues and that are constitutional issues and that are freedom issues. What is it prompts you and motivates you to do this? Because not everybody does this.
Right. And well, I'm no longer affiliated with the opposition. I actually resigned from the UNC earlier this year because of these matters that I bring. A lot of questions were being made. Was I doing it on behalf of the UNC and so forth? So I resigned. I took myself out of that equation. But in terms of why I do it, and in terms of this matter specifically, the matter involving the PSC and the appointment of acting commissioner of police. I wasn't the first one to come to the realization that, something had gone wrong in the entire process. There were a number of persons, including Mr. Dave Prasad, a former attorney, and, uh, various persons were raising objections in the public domain regarding this issue. But no one did anything about it. There was a lot of talk, as there usually is, but no one actually takes action. And it's in those instances that I decide, and again, through a lot of deliberation, a lot of consultation. Whether or not there is a case um, that can be brought up in the judiciary in the courts. And in those instances, I take it forward and move forward with it.
Okay, but your case had far-reaching effects because there was in the court, before the court, a matter brought by Gary Griffith, the former commissioner of police, against the Police Service Commission. And that matter, there was agreement that there would be a kind of discussion and cooperation, collaboration, and a resolution outside of the court. Then there's the matter of Mr. Ramisa, who brought suit against the commission for having left out his name from the merit list, and so on. And in a fundamental way, your suit brought an end to the Griffith and the Police Service Commission matter and the negotiations and so on. But it also, in a fundamental way, because the court found in your favor and found the action of the PSC null and void, ultimately it led either before the court case or after the court case to the resignation of all members of the Police Service Commission. Now, I know you said that you've been successful in all three cases, and you certainly were successful in this one. But besides the fact of a personal success, what do you think is the success, or if you want, quote unquote, the successfulness of your suit, given your concern about the society at large, the constitutional issues, government arbitrariness, institutional arbitrariness, etc.?
Well, the thing about it, and during the proceedings of this case, and especially in the judgment, what we found out is, and when we went into it, we had only raised the issue of Mr. Griffith's acting appointment after his contract had come to an end as Commissioner of Police. But in handing down her ruling, what Justice Kangaloo stated was that, in effect, and as she interpreted both the Act and the Constitution, every acting appointment of a commissioner since 2009 has, in effect, been deemed unconstitutional and illegal because because of the legislative amendments that the government made to the Police Services Act in 2009. They did not include any specific instructions for the appointment of an acting commissioner. And because of that, what it meant is that if you needed to appoint an acting commissioner for any reason, you would have to go through the entire process of the Police Service Commission filing applications with the president, and they would have to go to Parliament for debate and such. So really and truly, the biggest thing to come out of this matter is that the government now has to look at the entire Police Service Act and reform the legislation because the entire act is flawed because of this now. And in terms of a more operational aspect of it, the police service itself, I think it 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 falls apart when you think that there's no longer a meritocracy in the rank and file of the police service, where an ordinary police officer no longer has the ability to be promoted to a leadership position. The highest position they can rise to now is superintendent. And I think all of these things need to be considered going forward. I think, we need to look at the entire process and the entire structure of the police service and the Police Service Act. And hopefully, out of these proceedings, now the legislators, the government, and the opposition can look at it and reform it in a way that will better suit and better fit the police service going forward.
You raised two issues there that are very important. You say basically the legislation governing this aspect of appointment has to be reviewed. And
Yes.
secondly, you said that under the present system, a police officer can only hope to be promoted up to the rank of superintendent. Explain to me what you mean by those two issues.
Well, okay.
The review, which
Right.
Justice Kangaloo now, by her decision, now makes necessary. And secondly, why do you say that they cannot be appointed up beyond superintendent?
Well, the way that the Act facilitates the promotion process, and this is prior to 2006 and after 2006. Prior to 2006, what you would have is a police officer would be able to rise through the ranks and be promoted gradually until he could be appointed into a position of deputy um, police commissioner or a substantive police commissioner. When the act was reformed, and then changes were made subsequently in 2007 and 2009. These took away the powers from it being a meritocracy and gave the powers to the parliament, wherein the Police Service Commission would examine applicants for these two positions, deputy commissioner and commissioner, and then that merit list would go to Parliament to be debated, and it's the politicians who would then decide whether or not someone could fill those positions. What is meant is that there was no longer the automatic promotion of persons, and there would be an application process compared to other Commonwealth countries, and I looked at Jamaica while these proceedings were going on, and Jamaica has this really structured process where the Police Service Commission is in charge of all promotions and even up to commissioner. And the thing about it that really struck me is that it doesn't go to Parliament; it just goes straight to the governor, um, and they make the appointments based on the
Governor
Police
General,
Service
yeah.
Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all of these things we really have to look at, and we really have to consider whether or not we want to go down this road where it goes to the Parliament. And in terms of the appointment of Commissioner Griffith in 2018, we saw that in terms of the merit list that went to Parliament, he was actually the fourth candidate in that process. There were three persons who were ranked above him in the order of the merit list, but these three persons were overlooked by the Parliament, and then he was afforded the position. And so it's all of these things. Three of them were actually from the police service itself. He was a civilian up until that point in time.
All
So,
right.
so this is the reason,
But
why I say, we need to look at it and we need to consider
but
it.
you realize these are contradictory processes. I'm not saying that you have a contradiction in your mind. I'm saying that both processes are contradictory because one calls for political scrutiny and public scrutiny on the part of Parliament, but it also gives the government, whoever is the government, an important say because by majority support in the Parliament, they can determine who the police commissioner is. Whereas the other process gives the power to the Police Service Commission. And in that system, the Police Service Commission speaks, it would speak in our case to the president, as it does with the governor general in Jamaica. And that would leave the process largely outside of the jurisdiction of the political directorate. Now, a government will say that we need to have a say in who is the commissioner, and we need to put that person through parliamentary scrutiny, and that makes it democratic. Another person may argue, if you want the process to be free of political interference, you must have an independent police service commission under whose jurisdiction all of this falls, and therefore the police service itself is independent and free from political interference. So, do you have a view on this, or do you simply want to see it play out?
Well, no, and it goes back to a 1971 ruling, a Privy Council ruling of Thomas versus the Attorney General, in which an officer of the police service, Mr. Thomas, had been suspended by the Governor General at the time of Trinidad and Tobago based on certain actions that he would have taken in the police service. And what the Privy Council ruled in looking at the matter and looking at how he was suspended, part of their ruling was that, there should be a clear separation of the service commissions from the government if the entire process is to remain independent. And when you look at the appointment process now of a commissioner, and as the law structures it, the applications first need to be screened by an independent body hired by the government to look at these things. And then those applications goes to the Police Service Commission for additional screening. And the thing about it, at that point, where you have two independent bodies screening and assessing the applicants, I don't understand what further assessment needs to be conducted by the government, because it would only be conducted based on the merit list provided by the Police Service Commission. And you would expect that merit list would rank the applicants in an order in which they think is from most to least capable person. And again, you look at Mr. Griffith and you look at how the process took place. And then we find out just a few weeks ago that the Prime Minister himself, a year ago, wrote to the PSC and said he no longer has confidence in Mr. Griffith. And this is a man who he voted in Parliament to appoint as commissioner, who was at the bottom of the list. He elevated them above the three senior persons on the order list. And 2 years into his tenure, he no longer had confidence in the person. And really and truly, if anything, that speaks to the importance of the list and of the procedure as conducted by the Police Service Commission. And it brings up the flaws of having it go to Parliament to be debated.
All right. There are things that we could probe there, but we will leave that. We're going to have to break now for commercials, but I want to ask you a question that you can reflect on. When we come back, I'm going to put that question to you. Do you think that Gary Griffith is a victim or a casualty in this? Or how do you see him? Do you think that this is the end of Mr. Griffith as Commissioner of Police, or do you see endless controversy ahead? I'm going to have you answer that question when you come back. Okay?
Sure.
So we're going to break now for a commercial break.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today, or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
Mangalese Trading Company Limited.
Specialist in PVC ceiling, gypsum ceiling, suspended ceilings, medallions, lights, metal framings, and SPCS flooring, known as vinyl plank. Now introducing Mangalese Foods, wholesale and retail, distributor of the family brand food items. Our range of products include rice, sugar, chickpeas, split peas, and soybean oil. Mangalese Foods deliver exceptional products. We offer timely and efficient service. We are located at 9 Francis Lala Road, Charlieville, Chaguanas. Contact us at 672-9889, 740-5569, or 336-4373.
Mangalese Trading Company Limited.
You did the right thing. So now we're giving you things. Republic Bank thanks you and wants to reward you for getting vaxxed. Win $5,000 in prizes every week, plus one of 2 cars in December. You took care of your health, and now we're taking care of you. $5,000 and a chance to win a car. See press and log on to republictt.com for details.
As we celebrate the Festival of Light Over Darkness, let Magic Mist Services Limited take away the hassle of your Diwali home cleaning and maintenance needs. With our team of professional service team members, we will ensure your home receives the magic touch. Give us a call today at 638-6675 or 332-5522. Shub Diwali from Magic Mist Services Limited.
Welcome back to Brighter Morning with Bo. I am Bo Tiwari and I'm talking with Mr. Ravi Balgobin Maharaj this morning about the court case he won and many of the implications of that court case, in which he challenged the authority of the PSC to appoint a commissioner of police on its own. Okay, Mr. Maharaj, you remember the question?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
All right. Okay.
And I will say this. Mr. Griffith is fully aware of the process for the application of commissioner. And he would be aware, as I stated previously, in 2018, he was at the bottom of the merit list. And I think he must have had it in his mind, that going forward and as the process became more refined, his chances for retaining the position or being appointed for a second term was slim. And I think in a lot of ways, probably he felt that this acting position, when it was given to him at the end of his term, was going to be his last hurrah in the position. And I think that's the reason why he fought so hard to hold on to the position. I also think that, as we see him in public, whenever he makes statements and things, he's a man who has a lot of pride in his work and in himself. And I think, the way that he would have left office was not ideal for him. And, all of these things kind of played into it. That being said, the information that we're getting now, especially in the expose that was done in the newspapers over the weekend, when we find out things like, how he was hiring persons on contracts and these things, and you look at the areas that they were being inserted, because, he hired 3 or 4 persons simply for public relations and bloggers and these things. And these persons were taking up in excess of $100,000 per month. And prior to that, you would have heard him saying in the public, that he didn't have the funds to properly fight crime and these types of things. But then you see the way that he is allocating resources to public relations rather than crime fighting. And all of these things, mm, it's easy to understand then why the Prime Minister and other persons would have lost confidence in Mr. Griffith. And I don't know that the Police Service Commission would have had any more confidence given the low ratings he has gotten from their screening process. So all of these things, I think, really and truly, he really wanted to hold on to the acting position, but I don't see him as a victim because I don't believe, based on all these things, that he really deserves it.
Okay, so you are very clear on that. Would you say that would you think that there is a feeling in some quarters that there is a conspiracy, or there was a conspiracy, or there is a continuing conspiracy to make sure that Mr. Griffith doesn't continue in office as Commissioner of Police? Do you think there is such a controversy? And was your lawsuit a part of that controversy?
Well, no, and I'll tell you something. It was very funny to me, and it continues to baffle me that he's making the accusation that there's a conspiracy to get him out of office. When, in my opinion, there was a conspiracy to keep him in office because his contract came to an end on August the 17th, right? And so his contract was terminated through the natural processes of his contract. It came to an end. And then he's handed this acting position, which was not protocol, it wasn't procedure, and it had never been done before, where a civilian was given an acting position within the police service to act as either commissioner or deputy commissioner. Prior to that, and going back to our independence, you would have seen that whenever someone has had to act, it would have been a rank and file member of the police service in a position superintendent or above. So in my opinion, and when you look at it really and truly, I think there was a conspiracy to keep him as acting commissioner and maybe to extend the process like had been done previously, where you would have persons acting as commissioner for years or decades even in that role. So
But if
those are my opinions on it.
if the Prime Minister had lost confidence in Mr. Griffith and had written to the Police Service Commission, and we have seen how the controversy has unfolded since your lawsuit and the decision, if there was a conspiracy to keep him in office, where was that conspiracy coming from?
Well, that's an extremely good question, and honestly, I don't know because I think you have to look at the way that the Police Service Commission under Ms. Bliss Prasad actually fell apart. And if you would recall, prior to her own resignation, a week or two before, the other members had resigned in protest of actions that she was taking in regards to suspending Mr. Griffith and the way that she handled the application process and handing over to the president and so on. So really, actually, there were issues taking place in the Police Service Commission that we do not have the full details on. But I think if there was any conspiracy and if any malpractice was taking place, that is where it would have been found.
Okay, so you think that the real conspiracy was in the Police Service Commission somehow, and that there was a conspiracy, in fact, to retain Mr. Griffith in a way that was not constitutionally provided for. That is your view?
Well, absolutely. And at the beginning of our case, and this was prior to the collapse of the PSC again, we were looking at things such as the relationship that the Attorney General had with members of the Police Service Commission and with Mr. Griffith, where there seemed to be a serious conflict of interest among these three individuals, who I won't name here. But, these things were never addressed. I believe the leader of the opposition actually took one of the matters to court, though, which involves the sale of a vehicle from the Attorney General to a
Yes.
member of the former Police Service Commission. But all of these things were taking place again in the Police Service Commission, and we just don't have the full details surrounding it.
All
But
right. So
really and truly,
go
there just
ahead. Go ahead.
it appears. Sorry, yeah, there appears that there was some conspiracy. Whether or not it involved Mr. Griffith, we would probably find out. But we need to look at not only the way that the commissioner is being appointed, but we need to really examine the commissioners themselves who form the board of the PSC and the way that they are appointed going forward.
Okay. I want to ask you a closing question. We're going to have to close now for the news. You said before that you are no longer a member of the UNC because you didn't want to be accused of having a political agenda. Your attorneys, however, include the former Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago in the People's Partnership administration. But I get the feeling that you want to present yourself and you want to stay on the issues as a civil society activist, not partisan in any way and not aligned politically in any way. You just want to deal with these issues that they come up as they have to do with freedom of information, with constitutional authority, and the abuse of the power of government. Am I correct or not? Can you respond to that? And this
Yeah,
is the end of the interview.
sure, but you're absolutely correct. The reason that I utilized Mr. Ramlogan is because I was affiliated with him before when I was in the UNC. But really and truly, in my opinion, and based on the results that we've gotten from the court, I believe Mr. Ram Logan is one of, if not the best constitutional attorney in Trinidad and Tobago operating today.
Yes.
And, again, his record speaks for itself, I believe.
Sure. Okay. And you would like to proceed as an independent civil society activist in matters that are of concern to you and the nation.
Absolutely,
What,
absolutely. And I think, as we go forward, whenever these things come up, I will be involved in some way moving forward.
all right. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Balgobin Maraj, for talking this morning. I thought that you
Sure.
brought a fresh perspective to this discussion. And I want to thank you for being very forthright and open. And I think by doing so and by handling the matter in the way that you did, you added to the democratic discourse in the country. I want to thank you very much for your contribution.
Sure, thanks, and thank you for having me this morning.
Okay, and we break now for the news. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. I'm Bo Tiwari, and this is MCTV, Multicultural TV in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.